Welcome back, everyone, to Art in the Style of Loteria Cards, Part 2. Where today we're going to take what we did last week, the thumbnail sketches, and enlarge them into larger, more final work. This is going to be step 3. So once you've already sketched all your objects out, you're going to choose one to make into a final artwork. Here's a quick time-lapse video of one that I did earlier this week. We start by doing the border around everything, sketching everything out, getting the letters all settled and lined up. We're going to add some color. We're going to go ahead and add the color to the background and then add the number. And this is just a really quick video since I learned how to use the time-lapse function on my phone. All right, for today's purposes, you guys, I have decided to use one of the photos that I took instead of drawing from real life. So if you last week happened to take photos on your phone or transfer them onto a computer of the things that bring you joy and the things that you love, I sometimes find that photos can be easier to work from than drawing three-dimensional objects. Entirely up to you. So I'll be working from this photo, which I've printed out today. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so by the end of last session, you should have ended up with something like this. With your thumbnail sketches, you might have many of them, you might just have 4. But this is going to give you a good basis to kind of see how your compositions will lay out and then make a decision on which one you really want to turn into a final piece of artwork. And of course, you can do more than one. You can do different takes on this. As I mentioned last time, you can make your own deck. You can also turn these into paintings on canvas. Really just bright and bold and fun and beautiful. And something I didn't mention last time, but the thing about real Loteria cards is that they have such a very cool graphic style to them that we're gonna, as we enlarge our observational drawings from last week, we're gonna work with that in mind. And just remember that the drawings are really, really simple, not meant to be exactly realistic, but we're just having fun with this graphic style. So I'll put these away. And I went ahead without you and decided that I'm going to enlarge La Rosa, my rose. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be working from a 2-dimensional photo that I printed out of my rose. Let's get this going. As always, you know this, very important, I cover my workspace. So especially since everyone's working at home right now, you might be on a dining room table, or a countertop that you do not want to stain. So always, always cover your surface. I'm going to start also with a stack of copy paper. You might be using something a little nicer, which is fine too. First thing I want you to start with today is making your border. Now, since this is going to be a piece of final artwork, I am going to use my ruler. Here we go. I'm just going to make a nice border around the edge. Kind of keeping space, about equal space, I'd say about a 1/2 inch. Doesn't have to be exactly measured, just so that it looks right. There we go. Lay that down. It's okay to take a little extra time here, just to get this looking good. Here we go. And voila. So in pencil, so I always like to start these sketches with pencil so that I don't need to redo them. Pencil and an eraser. Here we go. I'm going to turn this around for myself. I'm going to just make very, very light marks to decide where my rose should go. I don't want to make it quite exact size, although I could, because I'd like to leave a little extra room for the words to breathe. So I'll just make a mark here where I'd like the bottom of this stem to go, and maybe a mark here where I'd like the top of the very highest petal to go. I think I'll bring that down a little bit. All right, I'm gonna get started. So I'm just gonna capture this edge, and again, just working in pencil in case I make a line that I'm not entirely happy with. And get started on these petals, just kind of in the same way that I was working before. But now that I've gotten my sketch out of the way, I know a little bit more about how this particular flower petal works. I've become familiar with it, since I've sketched it a few times. So go ahead and just capture these, making sure that I'm keeping the mark at the top that I set for myself. Let's see. It's a nice ruffle there. And just marking these, there we go, and we'll capture this one too. So again, in the spirit of acting kind of like this is a very simple graphic art drawing, I keep my lines pretty simple. Next, I'm going to go ahead and map out where I'd like my letters to be. In this case, I want to put both the name of the rose bush, which is Bella. So I'm just going to very lightly sketch that out. Give it quotations. And then for the main name, if you're going to do block letters, I'll show you a little trick. First, I need to map out and make sure that I have enough room for all the letters. Let's see, L-A. I'm just going to make little space holders. Space R-O-S-A. I still have equal amounts of space left on either side. So what I like to do to make block letters, and I'll show you quickly, is I just write the actual letters just in standard script, right? Just regular script. O-S-A. And then what you can do is actually build, and I'll show this to you in marker so you can really see it. You're going to build the letter around your standard letter. And that's just a really easy trick to do block letters. Then you go back and actually erase your inside letters. So what I'm doing is I'm blocking around it, leaving about the same amount of space on either side of the line that I made. Boom, boom, boom. There we have it. While I have my marker out, I'll go ahead and trace this. Quotations. And I'll go ahead and start tracing my rows. I'm going to run through this part quickly. You, of course, can take your time. If there are any lines that you're not happy with, just erase them. And do that line again. So once you've gotten everything traced on your actual image, you're going to try to figure out what number you want at the top. So you might be making this as a gift for somebody. Say it's your mom, and say her favorite number, her lucky number is 17. And you can add the number at the top. This is a great gift for people that you love. I have everything traced now. I'm turning it upside down for you. And now I'm going to go back with my eraser and erase all these extra lines. Definitely do not need them. And in fact, sometimes pencil lines really get in the way of marker. I hope that little block letter trick came in handy. You can also do bubble letters that way, but instead of making the hard lines, you would just make them a little bubblier. There we go. Now, time for color. I'm just going to go ahead and head in with my markers. You could do a marker and crayon combo. Again, like I said, if you really want to use paint, that's an option too. And something that I notice about this photo is that I see different grades, different values of these yellows. So I want to try to capture some of these dark yellows, some of the lighter ones. Let's see. Let's see. I like to keep a scrap paper kind of right behind my paper to test my markers out. Oh, good. That one's a little darker. All right. I'll go in and where's this dark spot? I got it down here. Capture some of the dark spots. And again, just having fun. This is almost like pop art. It's a very simple object that's kind of flattened. For my bright yellow, I really like to use my Crayola markers. Just kind of give it a once over. Remember, any kind of coloring tool will work. But I have definitely made paintings in this style that have come out really cool. In fact, I have one not too far from me right now that I could show you at the end of this. Head back with my green. And like I did in my sample piece for my background, I am going to go turquoise. Now with these particular markers that I'm using, you can see the line of where the marker stops. So I like to go in pretty straight lines. Of course, if you're going for kind of a messier background, something a little more abstract, you don't need to use really perfect lines. I have to trace the object, make sure that I don't overlap the color. And if you really wanted to, I'm sure you could make your background more complicated or give it a couple more colors. I like to keep it really standard. Really lets the foreground, which in this case is my flower, stand out more. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Okay, so I'm just going to try to rush through this quickly, which is not my recommendation for how you work, of course. You know that. There we go. And just like in watching the Food Network, when they start something and then they pop it in the oven and 2 minutes later they pull something else out, voila, I have a finished version for you. So here's my finished Loteria card. I think I'd like to make a series of these. I don't know if I'm going to want to do 54, but I definitely want to do more. And as promised, why don't I go ahead and pull this painting that I made a few years ago out. Oops. If I would have thought about this before, I would have it ready for you. Here's one. This is a nopal or a cactus. And here's another one, watermelon. So these make great paintings if you happen to have canvas and paints lying around too. All right, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this week's lesson. Please post what you've done so that I can see it. I cannot wait. I might even try to make a little digital copy of everything that we've all made and put a whole deck together for us. That would be cool. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Stay safe, and I will see you next time.